Alright, section 2.4 is multiplying fractions. So the directions in every one of these problems is going to be to multiply and simplify. Multiplying fractions is a fairly easy process. In order to multiply fractions, all we're going to do, is multiply straight across, and then if we can reduce, we'll go ahead and do it. So 6 times 3 is going to leave me with 18. 11 times 7 will leave me with 77. Now I can't reduce 18 and 77, so I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. For my next problem, I'll do it exactly the same way. Now 2 times 5 gives me 10. 7 times 8 leaves me with 56. Now I can reduce these two fractions. I can divide them both by 2. So 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 2 goes into 56 28 times, and now I'm done. Now the next problem, I'm still going to multiply and simplify, but I'm going to do this one slightly different. Instead of waiting till the end to reduce, I'm going to go ahead and reduce at the beginning. Now the way that we reduce at the beginning is we're going to look at the numbers on the top, and we're going to see if any of those numbers on the top part of my fractions will reduce with any of the numbers on the bottom part of my fractions. The first thing I notice is that 4 and 24 can be reduced. I can divide both of those numbers by 4. Well, 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 24 6 times. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with my other two numbers. 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 35 7 times. Now, if I multiply straight across, 1 times 1 on the top leaves me with 1. 7 times 6 will leave me with 42. Typically, this is a better way to reduce our fractions, simply because if we multiply straight across, I want you to take a look at the numbers that we had. So I'm going to erase this part here, and I want you to take a look at the numbers that I had. Now, if I come back over here, 4 times 5, well, that would have left me with 20. 35 times 24, I'm going to go ahead and grab my calculator for that one so I can figure that out, because those are some much larger numbers. 35 times 24, 35 times 24 is 840. And now I'm going to have to reduce that fraction. It's much simpler for me to reduce in the beginning with numbers like 4 and 24 and 5 and 35, because those numbers are much smaller. If you do reduce 20 over 840, you still end up with a 1 over 42, but I think the process in reducing this one can be a little bit more tedious. Now, for the next problem, 0 times 8 over 9. I want you to remember, anytime you multiply by 0, the answer is 0. Same thing for the next problem. I don't actually have to worry about multiplying 8 times 4, 11 times 7, because the fact that they're getting multiplied by 0 tells me that my answer here is going to be 0. Now, the next one, I actually have 3 fractions. I'm going to do this like I was doing before. I'm going to look at numbers on the top, and I want to see if I can reduce them with numbers on the bottom. So if I look at my number on the top like 11, I notice that I can divide 11 into 22. So 11 goes into 11 once, 11 goes into 22 2 times. Now my next number here is 1. Because it's a 1, I'm not going to do much with it. I can't really reduce 1. So I'll go ahead and go to the next number, which is 5. Now I'm going to look at that number 5 on the top, and I'm going to look at the numbers that I have on the bottom. I know I can reduce 5 into 20. So 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 20 4 times. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply straight across. 1 times 1 times 1, still 1. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 times 2 is 56. And now I'm done. Alright, for my next problems here, I'm going to continue going the same route. I'm going to look at my numbers, let me see, 18 and 99. Now, 18 doesn't necessarily go into 99, but they do have common factors. I know I can divide both of those numbers by 9. So 9 goes into 18 2 times. 9 goes into 99 11 times. I'm also going to look at my numbers 36 and 20. I can divide both of them by the number 4. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 4 goes into 36 9 times. And now, again, I'm going to multiply straight across. 2 times 9 leaves me with 18. 5 times 11 leaves me with 55. All right, so I'll do the same thing with my next problem here. I'm going to look at my numbers 5 and 100. Well, 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 100 20 times. 32 and 64. They can actually be both divided by 32. 32 goes into 32 once. 32 goes into 64 2 times. Now again, I'm going to multiply straight across. I'm going to do this over here where I have a little bit more room. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 20 is 20. But I can reduce this fraction. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll divide them both by 2. And that leaves me with 1 over 10. So for my next problem here, it says find 1/5 of 200. The word of means to multiply. So I'm going to write this as 1 over 5 times 200 over 1, because I want to think of that as a fraction. I'm going to go ahead and reduce. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 200 40 times. When I multiply straight across, that leaves me with 40 over 1. Now remember, 40 divided by 1 is still 40. Oftentimes people want to leave the answer as 40 over 1, but you still need to reduce. 40 divided by 1 is still 40. All right, for the next problem here, it says a patient was told that at most 1/5 of his calories should come from fat. If his diet consists of 3,000 calories a day, find the maximum number of calories that can come from fat. Okay, so again, in a word problem, my first step is to read it. My second step is to read it again and look for key words. So I see my fraction, let me get my pen, here we go, 1/5, and right next to it I see the word of. Now remember, we said of means to multiply. So I'm going to write 1/5 of, which is to multiply, his calories. Well, his diet consists of 3,000 calories. So I'm going to write that over 1. I'm going to go ahead and reduce. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 3,000 600 times. When I multiply straight across, that's 600 over 1. Remember, when you divide by 1, you end up with your same number. All right. For the next problem that I have here, it says the radius of a circle is 1/2 of its diameter. If the diameter of a circle is 3/8 of an inch, what is the radius? Okay, so it's just like we've done before, 1/2. So I'm going to write down my fraction, 1/2 of. Of means to multiply. The diameter. It already tells me right here that the diameter is 3 over 8. Now remember, I'm going to multiply. When I multiply fractions, I go straight across. When I'm going to reduce, I have to ask myself, will any of the numbers on the top, will any of these numbers here reduce with any of those numbers there? Since they don't, I'm just going to go straight across. That's going to leave me with 3/16 of an inch. And so the last problem that I have here in 2.4 says, find the area of each rectangle. Recall that the area is equal to the length times the width. So again, I'm going to multiply. So here's my length. So that's 5 over 14 times 1 over 5. I'm going to go ahead and reduce. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 5 once. This is going to leave me with 1 over 14ths. Now, because my unit here is feet, this is going to be feet squared. Anytime we're dealing with area, my units are always squared.